Wonderful. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Melissa O'Hara. I'm with Women United, and I'm really excited to be with you here today. I don't know, for many of you, when I saw the potential of being here live, I was actually quite excited about it, that we might actually be in a room and having breakfast and breaking bread together. It's really important to gather, and a little disappointed when I knew it was going to be virtual only, and yet so excited when we saw our speaker, who's going to be Karen Hinds. You'll hear more about her. And really, I think the most important thing for me today as a member of Women United is, how do we use this space? How do we use the time that we're gathering to really get the most out of our membership and our ability to be together? For me, that's a few things. It's the ability to meet others. And so if you see names in the chat and you want to do a little hello or hi, please feel free to do that. The opportunity to continue to support our community, which I love the fact that Women United allows me to do and us to do. And the last thing is to really learn and grow personally and professionally. And that's one of the reasons why these Women United breakfasts have been established, is to give us the opportunity to grow. And with that, I want to turn it over and have us talk a little bit more about what the agenda is going to be like today and how we're going to be moved through the day. So let's move on.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Julia Johnson-Brenson. I am the chair of Women United. And before we begin, I would like to introduce some lovely ladies who are joining me in leadership. I have my vice chair, Erica Dean, and I have the two co-chairs for the engagement committee, Julie DeLuca Collins and Neelam Arora. Let's all give them some good vibes. Give them some good vibes.
Well, Julia, thank you for that welcome. I'm jumping in. Melissa, you did a great welcome. Appreciate that. And Julia, I am more than honored to be working with you and Julie and Neelam as we kind of kick off this being our first event of the year. Super excited. As you just kind of scan the program we have for you, the one thing I'd like to say, Melissa, I loved your opening and just the importance of this network and group of women and everything that this organization does to help bring a difference and create opportunity in our community. For me, that's personally why I've been a part of Women United since 2016, fifth year being a part of this organization, and have loved every moment of it. But you said something that I think is important. Say hi, create the sense of community. Since we aren't able to be in person, I would challenge everyone on this call, if there's someone you don't know that you'd like to get to know, reach out. Melissa said it, reach out and then create another opportunity to get to know that person, ask a question, learn more about them, and let's continue this sense of community that we have as a group. So this morning, as we go forward, we've already had a wonderful welcome. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Lauren, who will be going over Women United, an overview of this organization and our upcoming events that are happening throughout the rest of our calendar year. Then we're going to learn more about our Connectors program that we have. Then we're going to dive right into our keynote speaker. No surprise, you've heard her name, Karen Hinds. We'll learn more about her, and I'm looking forward to everything she has to say this morning. And then we'll close. So with that, Lauren, let me hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Erica. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you all, even virtually. Can't wait to see you all in person, but this is wonderful for now. All right. So just diving into it, we do love to have our prospective members and any folks that you think would be interested in joining Women United. We do love to have those folks attend these events. And so would love to just give an overview for folks who might not be as familiar with the work that we do. So Women United makes long-term commitments to financial stability and education initiatives for children, which deliver measurable and sustainable charge within our local community. So the local greater Hartford area. We prioritize fundraising to support these United Way family financial stability initiatives and ensure scalable success. So we also cultivate a culture of empowering women, including personal, professional, and philanthropic growth through our members and programs recipients. So as you are here today, these are kind of the benefits that we like to cultivate for members to come together and to learn from one another. So our impact, what do we do? Members step up to volunteer for the community in a variety of ways. When we were in person and soon to be, in person again, this could be reading to a classroom of elementary school children or cleaning up a park. In the COVID times, we did have to kind of reimagine how to support the community. Instead of reading in person, members did virtual read alouds. Most recently, though, we were fortunate to come together in person. A group, a group of Women United members prepared emergency evacuation kits for families in remembrance of 9/11. So it was really nice to be back together in person with you all safely. Women United members also fundraise and support Plating, our two largest fundraisers for financial stability of local women and children. So you may be familiar with those events. They're pretty exciting and fun. And since 2012, we have raised over 1.7 million at our signature event, Power of the Purse. We also have another signature event, Red, White, and Chocolate, that is coming up in January, which I will show you in just a moment. And so the funds that we raise ensure participants can identify financial goals, develop realistic budgets, reduce debt, build savings, increase income, and receive career coaching. So really, we are fundraising to invest back into the community for women to achieve their goals, realize, the bright future that they can have and that we all deserve. So really fantastic work that you all come together to do. All right, and so Red, White, and Chocolate, which really started out as a way for members to come together, has turned into our second largest fundraiser. It's a lovely evening. We've got wine tastings, chocolate. We are coming together in person at the Delamar in West Hartford. It's a spacious, gorgeous, brilliant ballroom. We chose that so that you all felt safe coming together. We will have masks provided. It's going to be a lovely evening. We are so very excited to have you all in person again. So save the date, January 27th, 6 to 9, the Delamar. Very exciting. And we will have registration links coming to you soon. And so just an overview for the rest of our calendar for this year. We have a pretty robust plan. Really excited to kick off the Leader Series next month in November. So we did decide to keep the Leader Series this year. It was very successful during the pandemic, and we're going to do 2 virtual offerings for you all to come together and learn from one another. So speakers for those 2 sessions are to be determined. We will have another Women United breakfast type gathering, which we're now calling our annual meeting, a time for members to get together. We'll celebrate successes and we'll plan for our future year ahead. And then, of course, Power of the Purse. We're coming back in person for the luncheon and silent auction, and that's June 16th. So save the date for that. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Jen Shanley to talk about connectors. And please, before I do that, actually, please feel free to reach out anytime in regards to joining Women United. Any questions about Women United, I am always here for you. All right, Jen.
Thanks, Lauren. So good morning, everyone. Glad to see you all here. I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of our Connectors program. So this is one of the new initiatives that we started to welcome new members on a more personal level, and for those members who would just like to get more out of their membership. So for those who are interested, we match each member with a current Women United member, and together they'll set up various touch points to talk about the organization, events, volunteer opportunities, and to answer any questions that the new member may have. We love this new program because we think it is a great way to network with the amazing women who make up this organization and to become more engaged with our mission. If you would like to participate in the program, please reach out to either Lauren or Julia or myself, and we'd be glad to get you into the program. So thank you for that. And I will now pass it over to Julia.
Thank you. So I am going to introduce our very fabulous keynote speaker today. Karen is a highly regarded leadership, diversity, and inclusion expert who has partnered with organizations to build talent pipelines, facilitate leadership programs, develop more inclusive cultures across the US, Caribbean, and South America. She has also served as our 2019 POP co-chair. She also taught me the importance of grit and grace, which I still use every day here in corporate America. I hope that she touches on it at some point. And Karen Hinds is also my girl crush for all the reasons I just cited. So I am happy and humbly introducing you to Miss Karen Hinds. Take it away, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction. Hello to everyone. Wow, it's great to see all your faces. I'm just going to do a virtual, hands and say hello to everyone. Thrilled that you're here. This is going to be a discussion. So if you're expecting a PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to be talking for the next 45 minutes. You're in the wrong place. When we talk about a topic such as women inclusion and the back to work strategy, this is a conversation that we all are going to have. And we're going to contribute to the wealth of information that is in the room, and we're going to share. I'm all about sharing. So as we think about what has transpired over the last couple of almost 2 years now, I don't know about you, but I remember when last year when we talked about COVID, it felt like it was going to be a bad snowstorm. How many remember that feeling? Like you had to run to the supermarket and get a bunch of food and supplies, and you're figuring a couple of days, maybe a week, we'll be okay, and we're back to business as usual. Well, this is a very long snowstorm because here we are. It is now October of 2021. This started in 2020. And our lives will never be the same. I think we hear people often say, but when we get back to normal, I think by now that verbiage has been erased from our vocabulary because we know there is no going back to what we had. What we need to look at now is how do we create a new normal? And what do we want that to be? And as we look at what has transpired, we're realizing that women in the process of the last almost 2 years, we've had a very different experience. As someone said, we all may have been in the same storm, but boy, our experience in the storm has been different. So as you think about women inclusion and your back to work strategy, some of you probably may not have left the workplace because you're in healthcare, and I want to acknowledge those of you who are in healthcare and say thank you very much. You may be a frontline worker as well, maybe not in healthcare, but we appreciate you and thank you. So you're thinking, Karen, what back to work strategy? I've been here all along. You guys are now coming back. So I want to thank those individuals. For those of us who are now going back or already back and trying to figure out what is going on, I want to kick us off by asking a question, and please use the chat function or unmute yourself to talk. And the question is, as a woman, what is your biggest challenge about returning to work? And I just want you to drop some information in the chat or unmute yourself and let's have a conversation about this. What's your biggest challenge? What's the one thing as you think about going back, or maybe you're already there and you're trying to adjust, what's been your biggest challenge or what is your biggest challenge? Again, unmute yourself and talk. I know we like to have conversations, or drop it in the chat. This is not the time to be shy. So someone put a close. Let's just start with the close. Accepting time waste commute again. Yes, all of that. I appreciate that. Getting out of pajamas. Some people we know are in pajama bottoms, no name mentioned. I know I've been in lots of meetings where I've been in pajama bottoms as well. At some point, maintaining the greater work-life balance I've created during the extended work from home, childcare when school is closed. Yes. Thank you all for those responses. Anybody want to jump in verbally? Don't all just put stuff in chat. I like to have conversations. And we have finding the right work schedule. Anybody want to jump in verbally? Please unmute yourself. Thank you for those who are chatting it up.
I think for me, I enjoy working from home because I'm able to work across many time zones and I'm able to interact with those colleagues. I think if I'm back in the office, I'm going to be limited to, my East Coast friends only. So trying to find a balance between that.
Yeah, you're so right about that. Yeah, I love working from home, and I've created a new normal for myself since the pandemic. I've decided that I wanted to be in a warmer climate, so and only come back to Connecticut when I need to. So I'm actually calling you from Florida, and I'm loving it here. So having to fly back to the weather every now and then when I need to for work, it's like, oh, that's gonna be a little bit. That's a challenge for me. We have not having freedom to exercise when I want to, and being able to now. Okay, that's great. Thank you all very much for sharing that. As we think about what it's going to take for us to be able to be productive at work, if you're a leader, pay close attention. If you're an individual contributor, still pay close attention, because all of this matters. We have to now come back to work with a new way of thinking and a new way of operating. The people who are going to be successful in this phase of work are the people who are going to be able to be flexible and adaptable. They're going to be able to move quickly. And here's why. Let's put up the numbers. So Andrea Jones is my Hollywood. We call her Hollywood. I'm going to ask her to pull the slides up. And let's talk about why this is critical for women. What we need to pay attention to as women, if you were not aware, is that female job loss rates during COVID-19 are about 1.8 times higher than male job loss. Think about that for a little while. Women are having to decide their career or their family for some instances. We know that some women, somebody put in the chat, childcare issues. If you have a young child with health issues and you don't want them going back to school, you're going to have to make some very difficult decisions. Or you have elderly parents. In my case, I have parents who are senior citizens, and I have to also think about them. You know, luckily I work from home. I don't have to go back to a workplace per se, but there are people who have to make those considerations and make those very difficult decisions. But also, women make up 46% of workers before COVID. So think about the brain drain, the exodus of women leaving the workplace, because we're 46% before COVID. We're leaving at 1.8 times higher than men, and women make up 43% of the job losses. As women in this room, this is a concern for all of us to take into consideration. We have to pay attention to how is this impacting our sisters? How is this going to make a difference? If you're a leader, what can you do? And think about, now that women are coming back into the workplace, what are the preconceived notions that people have about women? So I want to open that up for discussion again. Think about, I'm going to show them that one slide, Andrea. What are the preconceived notions? Because not only are we now not coming back to the workplace at the same numbers as men, but now we have to deal with this. And I want you to really think about, did you consider what women are coming up against when they come back to the workplace beyond your own situation? Because sometimes we have kind of a vision and we're only thinking about what's going on in my life. But as women who are serious about leadership development, women who are serious about opening doors and pathways and having access for other women, we can't just think about ourselves. So what are the preconceived notions? And again, there's a question, unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. What are the preconceived notions that will hinder a woman's return to the workplace? Can anybody share that? What are your thoughts on that? I'll kick one off for you if you're kind of wondering what. For number one, I think coming back to the workplace, there are going to be assumptions that women in general may not be up for the task, and she might be juggling too much. So she might not have access to some of those opportunities. I'm curious to hear what other people are thinking. All right. That we may not, gotta take my glasses off to read, that we cannot be effective from home. Oh my goodness. Isn't it crazy that before COVID, there were a lot of people who thought that you couldn't really work virtually. Now that we are here and in it, some companies are actually seeing accelerated growth because people are at home, because they can manage their own schedules, because their minds are not as stressed as they were. But yes, there's this misconception that because we've been at home for the last year and a half, even though your numbers may be higher. I have a situation right now where we're working with a woman, her numbers are higher working from home, yet they want her to come back to the workplace, which does not make sense because the leaders there want to see everyone. Think about that. We have another one. Assumption that women are the only ones responsible for childcare, while we often are primary, not fair to assume that this excludes based on this. Excellent point. We're not the only ones who brought the babies into the world. Why are we the only ones taking care of them? And whatever happened to all of the talk around ensuring that men are able to partake in proper child parenting roles as well? We always assume that the woman cannot do this, or coming back into the workplace, she'll have extra challenges. Yes, that may be correct, but we can't use those assumptions to withhold leadership positions, to withhold promotions, to withhold access and opportunity based on what we think without asking questions. Anything else? Because I want to share something with you may not have thought about. Come on, ladies. This is the early morning crowd. You are supposed to be firecrackers this early. What do you have for me?
Hey, Karen, it's Jan. I'll share a thought.
Go ahead.
I think one stereotype too is that all females are created equal, right? When it comes to generations, that women might all want the same things. And the truth is, there are younger folks, right? Millennials, Gen Z, men and women who actually want a lot more flexibility and have appreciated, many of the things that working from home has given folks, whether they caregivers or parents or not.
Yes, thank you very much for that. That is a wonderful point, because we're so much into the cookie cutter workforce that we expect people, before show up at 8, work, take lunch at 12, come back at 12:31, leave at 4:30, and oh, by the way, maybe you can stay till 6 or 7. And what we're recognizing is that people work differently. I have a young couple that I know. For them, they are parents of twin boys. When the pandemic started, they were 1 year old, and both of them work full time and had to figure out, how do we work when we have 2 full-time parents and 2 very active 1-year-olds who are running around the house? So how do we manage all of that? Because we can't do the regular 9 to 5. It might mean one parent had to work a little later or get up a little earlier. But one piece that we may be overlooking is the piece and how this is affecting women of color. Because when we talk about women, we often lump women into all one group, but we're all very different. And we all have different needs, as Jan was saying. So because we went through COVID, we also went through the murder of George Floyd. And for women of color, remember I said, we're all in the same storm, but we have different experiences. So for women of color, they're not particularly looking forward to coming back to the workplace, for many of them, not all of them, because they're still dealing with, I don't have to deal with some of the microaggressions that I had to deal with when I was in the workplace. I don't have to deal with the comments about my hair. I don't have to deal with the comments about, what I wear. I have to deal with the comments on assumption of intelligence because of what I look like. They don't have the pressure to conform to the standards of professionalism that we've all seen in the last, forever, basically. And for a lot of women of color, the rates of workplace stress and burnout is very high. So when we talk about inclusion and we're coming back to the workplace, it is really important that you look at all sides. What kind of woman are we talking about? Because a woman of color, their experiences coming back to the workplace is very different. I had one woman who said, I'm so glad I don't have to go back to my office. I don't have to deal with my coworkers' stares when I decide to wear my hair differently. I don't have to deal with some of the microaggressions that I experience in meetings. I don't have to deal with some of the silly conversation that we'll have over lunch. I just want to sit down and get my work done and be over with at the end of the day. So while we're talking about going back to work, it is really important that we consider that not everybody is having the same experience and that we're all coming to this from a very different place. So that's really important. Anybody thought about that? Have you ever thought about how other women were experiencing this whole back to work, please? Or were you just in your own world?
So I was definitely thinking about how other women experience coming back to work. I have someone who reports to me who is LGBTQ, and just dealing with that, the microaggressions associated with being LGBTQ are daunting, right? And so they're very excited that from working from home, they don't have to encounter that. I could totally relate to that, because even in my own experience, you made a great point, the hair, right? So when the hairdressers are closed, my hair is naturally very, very curly. And quite crazy at times. And so when I would, be on Zoom, you don't have your hair straight, it's crazy. And it literally would be 10, 15 minutes talking about this. And like, this isn't our talk track, let's move on. So just not dealing with those microaggressions is going to be good.
Thank you very much, Julia. But I appreciate that comment. And I think we also have to think about the people who are introverts, or as someone said, they're having an individual experience. So for them, going back to work, they were in their zone for the last year and a half. They enjoyed being at home, nobody barging into their office. They could turn their cameras off if they needed to. They can just answer email or get on camera, Zoom when they want to. And now they're having to deal with that. So when we talk about inclusion, people often think we're talking about just race and ethnicity. We have to think so much broader than that. We have to think about family structures. Some family structures during this pandemic, they came together. So it's not just a nuclear family, it's a multi-generational family. What does that mean? And also, how is this going to impact your role as a leader? Because now if you have aunt, uncle, brother, sister, everybody in the same household, and there's a death in the family or there's sickness in the family, you as a leader now have to be mindful you can't make a judgment on who counts as immediate family. Or what does that really mean? So I think we have to be mindful that when we think about what does it mean to come back to work, that we're looking at it not just from a place of race and ethnicity, but we're talking about neurodiversity. We're talking about family structures. We're talking about the LGBTQX community. We're talking about all other different communities that come together that we don't often think about because we're just in our own world. And it's all about you and your challenges and what's important to you. And we can no longer do that, because as we move forward, it's going to be critical. But it's also how you communicate. So again, speaking to those of you who are leaders and those of you who are not leaders, as we go through these next 3 points, you need to be mindful that you're letting your leader know what's important to you. So when we talk about communication, keep in mind the how, the when, and the frequency. The how, in the very beginning, we had individuals who did not know how to use the technology. We had people who didn't know how to put their cameras on. People didn't recognize how to get Zoom working right. So we had all of those missteps in the beginning. Now it's different. I think for the most part, I still come across people who don't understand. But as you think about coming back to work, if you're in a hybrid team, you have to be mindful that your communication strategy is sound. So how are you going to communicate if you have part of your workforce in the field, part of the workforce at home, and part of the workforce in the office? So what are you going to do if you have that mix? And even if you don't have that mix, everybody's in the workforce, back in the office, you might find some people are working 2 days from home, or they might work 1 day in the office. How are you going to communicate with them so they feel that sense of belonging? So I would suggest all of you have a communication strategy and detail the how. Sit with your team and ask, is it email? Is it Slack? Are we doing Zoom meetings? Is it a phone call? What exactly? What's the how? And then talk about the when. When are you doing this? We have clients who we're working with, when the things that derail them is the when, because they choose to have communication meetings or they choose to connect with their team when it's difficult for some people. So some will do morning meetings when they know that other individuals have obligations for family, or they have other obligations that make it very difficult. But the when is critical, because you have to now pair that with the frequency. This is the time when your individuals, your leaders, your individual contributors, they need to have that I'm trying to think of the word right now. They're trying to get that regular cadence of communication. They're trying to have that piece that they can rely on. They're trying to get back to what's semi-normal. And for them, knowing that we're going to communicate by Slack, is going to be every morning at 8 o'clock, or we're going to have it so it's every 2 days, or whatever the frequency is going to create some normalcy for the people who are coming back to the workplace, or those who are in a hybrid situation. So as a leader, you have to think about this. And as an individual contributor, if your leader is not doing this, it's really critical that you speak up and ask for those pieces that's going to make this experience so much better. The last piece I want to share that's really important, because I want to make sure I open up for discussion, is this. Think about, this is the time for a lot of leaders, you've been sitting around on your laurels, so to speak. But for a lot of us here in this room, you aspire to be a leader, but you've been sitting back. And I'm saying that this is a time, if you have leadership aspirations, raise your hand. Leaders are made during crisis. Great leaders are made during times of uncertainty and times of frustration and times of people feeling unsure. If you know you have the leadership stamina, if you even feel you have a little itty bit of it, woman, raise your hand, put your hand up, and don't wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder. Too often women are waiting for somebody to come out and wait to give you the golden ticket to get on the train. And I'm saying, forget about the golden ticket. You give yourself the golden ticket, because leaders right now, the role of leadership is changing. What do I mean by that? You're going to find that leaders in this season are going to need to step up or step back, because it's going to test every fiber of your leadership skills. Because if you're going to do business as usual, it cannot work. Why? Your job as a leader is to grow people. I'm going to say that again. Your job as a leader is to grow people. And when you're in all of this transition and what seems like confusion and chaos, sometimes we as humans, we get this tunnel vision and we just think about, how do I make sure I get through the next day? And if you're a working manager, it's even worse, because you're thinking, I can't think about all these people. They better figure this thing out for themselves. So the leaders now, you're either going to step up to the challenge, or I would ask you to step back. Why? Because your job as a leader is to grow people. And if you're unable, if you're unprepared, if you're unwilling to recognize that this is a time your people need you, it's time for you to step back. Because the level of support that is needed going through the next couple of weeks and months is going to be unprecedented. A couple of days ago was Mental Health Day. How many of you have already sat down and thought about how you're going to support your team? How you're going to ensure that they're taking advantage of all the opportunities and resources at your organization? How you're going to make sure that you're helping your team members, you're helping the people who you've been entrusted to help them develop to the next level of their skill set and not just manage the day-to-day work. If you're not sitting down and having growth conversations now in the middle of all this chaos, you are missing a wonderful opportunity, because people are only focusing on the negative, and they need you to be the leader who's going to reach down and pull them up and say, this is your time to shine. That's what people need. They need to know that you are there. They need to know that you're willing. They need to know that you're prepared and you're invested in them. Why? Because the quit factor is real. The quit factor is real.
Hey, Karen.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm going to ask a quick question. It's Melissa, a little provocative on the prior slide about the step up or step back.
Mm-hmm.
With that, and I agree with you, I wonder though, the proportion of, we talk about women versus men, how many men will be like, no, I worked hard to get to this level. Like, step back is not an option, because the way that they might gauge success is level in the organization. And is there a risk that you then have a disproportionate amount of male versus female, because women are being like, hey, I can't do my best, I'm going to take a step back. It's almost like when they apply for jobs. So I can't check these 3 boxes. And I'd almost push and say, is me, a woman at 80% still better than maybe a man at 100%? So just the dynamic tension between that and maybe the gender issues.
Sure, I agree with you on that. Definitely. I think men more than ever are going to say that they don't need to step back. And I think, especially if you're leading men at this time, it's important to have this conversation. And if you're a woman, before you step back, you really think, are you doing it from a place of insecurity, or is it because you're really not ready for this challenge? And there's a difference. So if you're saying, I'm not really ready for this because I have other things I need to think about, this is not the right season, I'm not able to be that person who's great to grow people, then we understand that. But if you're doing it from a place because you don't feel secure, that's a whole different story. And you're right, women should be aware of that, because the men are not going to be the ones who right away say that they need to step back. But I'm going to ask all of you to challenge your leadership, because if And man or woman, if you're not supporting people at this time, it's going to cost the organization in talent. It's going to bleed talent. So thank you very much for that, Melissa. Anybody else want to chime in? Okay. All right. So let's move on to the quit factor. So think about the quit factor. We're seeing that a number of people are deciding not to return. And we have one organization where during the pandemic, a number of people made the decisions to actually leave their living situation, their state, because their company said that they're going to be doing remote work. And we've heard of many instances where people found that balance and they're not willing to give it up. They're not willing to give up that mental sanity they've gained, that time with their children, that time with their significant other, the time with their pets. Let's not forget, it's not all about people with kids, because some people enjoy their pets and some people said, I don't have a pet, I don't have a kid, I don't have a significant other, I just want to find me. So people are recognizing that work does not need to be the way that Americans have prescribed it. In other countries, it's a very different look. America has a very unique way of looking at work. We would drive ourselves into the ground and think, we should be given a trophy for not having vacations. And people are thinking, we're not doing that anymore. I want that balance. But we're also seeing that with increased responsibility, personally and professionally, people are pushing back. They're pushing back and saying, not anymore, because I have an option. I have other opportunities. And a lot of companies are doing remote work. There's one financial institution that we're aware of, their entire mortgage underwriting department has gone remote permanently. They're never coming back to the workplace. Where we have another financial institution, they're on the fence about if the people should leave or should come back or should stay at home. And many of those individuals in that organization that's on the fence, they left and went to the one that can guarantee them remote work. But we talked earlier on about lack of adequate childcare and schooling. That is important. And we also talked about mental health. So as we look at what exactly is going on, we have a lot of people who are trying to sit down and think about, what is life all about now? What is the meaning of this? How do I move forward in a way that is authentic to me, that values my individuality, that values the things that are important to me and my family, because the mental health is at stake. Every one of our mental health is at stake. And as we think about what that really means, and Hollywood, we can move forward, and we think about what that means, is we're tired of the juggling act. Some people are looking to their leaders to be able to say, you know what, it's okay to take advantage of the resources. But if your leader isn't encouraging and making it normal, so to speak, making it okay to acknowledge that we all have some kind of mental health needs, it's going to make it very difficult for people to acquiesce and say, all right, I'm going to come back. But there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It doesn't work. And really, how are you creating psychological safety for your people? How are you as a team member, not just leaders, but as a team member creating psychological safety? We throw that term around, but remember we said earlier on, people are coming back for different reasons. They've had different challenges. People have had death. People have had emotional challenges during this time. We've seen the social unrest. All of it is coming together as one perfect storm to really help us think about, what are we going to do? How are we going to move forward? And really, we're making sure that at this time in our life, that we're paying close attention to what it really means to move back to the workplace. I mean, I had my first in-person session last week in Connecticut, and I remember just driving down Route 8 and thinking, I don't want to put shoes on. I don't want to put makeup on. I don't want to have this dress on. I don't want to do any of this. I just want to sit in my flip-flops and shorts and have a nice top on up front with some makeup and do my presentation. It was getting all of that mental baggage out of the way first before I could even address the client. And as women, we have to acknowledge that. we can't just sweep it under the rug. We have to create space for us to feel safe, knowing that we are in a different time at this place. Someone's put, all great points, Karen. This underscores the burnout dynamic that is more of an issue for women versus men, per the latest Women in the Workplace study by McKinsey. Yes, that's an excellent one. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have to pay attention to that. We can no longer pretend that we're driving ourselves to get to the top of the ladder. That's critical, but how are we going to get there when we're still mentally and physically and emotionally healthy? That the goals should be met. We should not let our foot off the gas as far as going into leadership, but we want to do it differently. And for those of you who are in leadership, how can we begin to create a different pathway for the women behind us? And if you're not in leadership, how can we support each other in this very critical time and move away from the superficial networking that we've done in the past and really come alongside us as sisters who are serious about advancement, serious about our career growth, serious about our families. We can do both. We can be serious about our families and serious about our careers. But how do we support each other, learn, and recognize we have different needs at this time? I'm going to stop. Any questions, thoughts, comments at this time? Feedback.
Karen, I wanted to comment on what you just said. I was going to ask that question. It was one of your earlier slides where you mentioned, I'm going to get the language wrong. We either said the misconception, preconceived notions, right, for women when we talked about micro triggers. A lot of times when that conversation comes up, the assumption's made that men are placing that on women. But we often find that as women, we are placing that on one another. And to me, I have found sometimes the greatest offenders of that. So when you just mention that, what are ways that you talk through that? I think we have to be real about recognizing we do that to one another and don't give ourselves that safe space.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's first by start having these honest conversations. I find that in too many spaces, we have these very fake conversations that are not real, they're not authentic. And I don't want to say the word authentic. I have to say real conversations. That as women, that we talk about what concerns us and what fuels us. So we put some unhealthy pressures on ourselves, and then we say, well, that's what the men, what about what we did to ourselves? So one is having those honest conversations. Two is once you've had the conversations, to find those support systems, one or two or three women. It doesn't have to be lots of women. A couple of women who can say, look, Erica, what you're going through right now, one, is not unusual, but two, here are strategies for your unique situation. And three, to recognize that we all have differences that should be celebrated. That means there's no cookie cutter approach. So I would say it's honest conversations, it's acknowledging that we are living in a time when we have the mask on. We are very good at that. I mean, I've perfected the mask. I know the mask. I made the mask. I have a custom mask. I know my mask. I mean, we all, when we're going through difficult times, nobody knows. I mean, I went through some very difficult personal experiences and I didn't say a thing to anyone except some very close people. It's when we begin to take the mask off that we can be real, because behind that mask is a lot of insecurities that we need to deal with ourselves that we often project on others.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other thoughts, questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Karen, this is Mariana Albert. I think that what COVID has given me and the opportunity to work from home and as a leader is the ability to regain my sense of compassion towards people. And that is something that I know I had lost at some point along the way, as I was working so hard and taking care of my family and all of that. And I found sometimes there was very little time to say, good morning, how are you? Tell me, tell me about your daughter, or tell me about your father, or tell me about, whoever it was. And COVID has given me that opportunity to bring back the compassion. Yes. I find that this situation is the ultimate test of diversity. What I might expect might be important to someone or unimportant to someone. There's no way that I can make that assumption or that assertion, because everyone's situation is so individual and so different. Yes. And I really appreciate you engaging us in this conversation, because personally for me, it has given me a lot to think about. And I think I've checked the box with everything that you said. The mask, I don't want the commute. I love the flexibility. I'm so much more productive from home, all of those things. So I just wanted to say that I hope that that's one thing that in particular as women that we don't lose and we bring back, which is our sense of compassion and serving others.
Great. Thank you so much for saying that. Yes, that empathy is critical. When we're empathetic, it makes it easier to understand the plight of others. And I said this about 4 times already. We're in the same storm, having a very different experience. And oftentimes because we're in our own storm, we can't peek over and say, how bad is it over there, Erica? Or how bad is it over there, Melissa? You don't have time for that because your head is down and you're just only thinking about you. I think we need to hold our heads up and, as I said, get back to that honest place, because this entire situation, COVID, the conversations around race and racism in America has highlighted a lot of very difficult feelings, a lot of difficult realities and realizations. And until we as women can have those honest conversations and take the mask off, and sometimes, you don't have to take the whole mask off, maybe just peel off a little piece, at least peel the eye off so you could see something of somebody else's world. And it's going to take time because it's going to mean that you're vulnerable. And we all have this, well, I'm a woman who's strong, I'm a woman who's determined and fierce and focused. And those are words I use often. But what's the price? Until we start sharing the price of what it means to be a strong woman, we really can't get to the next step as quickly as we can. So as I look around the room, it's about who's in your personal circle. So this is great, but I like the idea of the connect hers where you can have those one-on-one meetings. Because when you start to get to know someone on a personal level, it makes all the world of difference. Then we could start talking about access, opportunities, growth, a sense of belonging, a sense of inclusion, a sense of helping each other grow and grow quickly and grow strong and grow, fit in whatever word you need to do. But that's what we need to get to. So thank you very much. Anybody else? I see a comment that says, not to mention some of us like myself who have gained weight during this time, I may not feel comfortable being in a face-to-face settings right now. Can we say an amen to that one? So, I mean, we've gotten comfortable. All of us, we have these unhealthy standards. And quite frankly, if you don't have to, I used to try to put on my dresses every couple of weeks to make sure they still fit and go through that headache. It's like, oh my God, that's unnecessary stress. But how do we learn to accept ourselves just as we are? How do we build that confidence in our abilities and help each other? I'm going to keep going back to the help each other, because in professional circles, there's a very superficial sum of support where people would only let you in that much. So on the surface, it looks like you're networking and you're really killing the game, but you can only go that far. And we're going to get past that.
Hi, Karen, it's Judy too. And one of the things, me with my, on my financial and banking side, I'm thinking about how much money people have been able to save by redetermining how much it costs to be that face and present that. And, that all the money that they spent on dry cleaning and nails and hair, that now they can take that money and go and spend it on a vacation or have different life choices or invest differently. It changes the outcome of everything. So then you reevaluate what's really important and how you want to show up differently for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I so agree with you, Judy. Thank you very much. Yes, a ton of money has been saved on makeup. A ton of money has been saved on shoes. And dare I say, I think some feet probably got prettier too, because they weren't jamming them into shoes that were too tight or too high or too whatever it is. So some people's feet got even more improved. So there's a whole lot of benefits. But I also want to touch on, there's some women who genuinely want to be in the workplace, who like the office environment, and we should not look down on them or judge them, because for them, that is where they thrive best. So we gotta be very mindful as well. When we talk about inclusion, That not everybody's fighting to not be in the workplace. Some people are running, going, yes, let me in my office, please, let's go, let's go, let's go. And for us not to judge her, but to accept her and know that she has her own realities, her own needs, and she's perfect just the way she is. Nothing's wrong. And as we think about that, you know, I want to offer something. I forgot to mention this. My mom said, when you go to people's house, you always bring a gift. And I want to make sure that before you leave here, you know that we provided a gift, a short course on self-confidence of women that we have in our Workplace Success University. So if you're interested, Andrea is going to drop my email in the chat box there, and she will go do that now, Andrea. And you can just send us a quick email and we'll give you access to that course. And the other thing that we want to share, because I recognize the time is also flying before I open up for some additional comments, is that we're going to be offering a focus group for oops, wrong. Actually, let Andrea slide first. We'll let Andrea do this one. So we have these workshops coming up, but we're also going to be doing a focus group on Friday from 11 to 12 to have a discussion on women and what it takes for women to accelerate and move up in their workplaces. And we're, as a gift to all of you here, we're going to do a few things. Number one, we're going to give you access to that free course, but we're also going to give you, between now and January, we're giving you access to all the new courses that we're going to be uploading through our Workplace Success University. And all you can do is send a quick email to Karen@workplacesuccess.com. It does not cost you anything, but we'll give you access to all of that. The first of which will be the confidence course, and we'll begin a series of coaching conversations in the next couple of months about what women need to do to advance. So, as we think about women and inclusion, what is it going to really take for us to move forward? In the chat box, send the email if you want the course, or click on the link if you want to join us for the focus group coming up later on this week. But this is a time for all of us to really sit down and think about what's really important. What is really important at this time? And when we talk about women and inclusion, whenever you find yourself not understanding the experience of somebody else and you're getting defensive, to just be still. Because as you explore these conversations with people coming back to the work, you're going to hear how people experience the world differently. And sometimes you might be asked questions you may not be agreeing with. People ask you, well, how could you not believe, or how could you not think, or how could you not fill in the blank? If you find yourself getting defensive, I'm going to ask you to just step back and just listen. Because what's going to take us through these next couple of weeks and months is for you to be able to listen, bring a sense of empathy. Listen, bring a sense of empathy. Because we're all in the same storm, but we're having a very different experience. I'm going to reiterate that. We're all in the same storm. We're having a very different experience. Take this time to listen, be empathetic, because your experience is different from somebody else. And there's no one normal experience. It's just life. And we all come at it very differently. So we see comments here. It says that as a leader, I realized I was leaning in on my in-office resources more because they were physically there on top of mine. Now I reach out more equally to my employees, and those who were formerly remote feel fully connected. Yes, thank you very much for that. Yeah, it means so much for people to feel that they're part of something. What are you doing to contribute to that? What are you doing to contribute to that? Again, make sure you take care of free. My grandmother always said free is good. So email if you'd like to join the courses, join us for the focus group. And we do have a workshop called a manager's action plan to building an inclusive team coming up in November. That's what Lauren was putting up. The one tomorrow, we're not able to accommodate anybody else, but a manager's action plan to build an inclusive team. That is a free workshop. That is not free. That is a paid workshop. That's the only thing that's not free. That is a paid workshop. And if you want more information, just reach out and let us know. So thank you all very much for this time. I'm going to stop and allow you to have your last conversations and say, we appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, this is Pratik Kaufman, and thank you, Karen, so much. You know, there were so many amazing nuggets today, and one of the best thing I learned again and again, it's a lesson everybody tells every leader: don't judge, accept yourself. And every journey starts with you. You cannot accept others, and you cannot do anything for others unless you accept yourself and you don't judge yourself. What a powerful way to put that message across, and and bring all the leadership to the next level from that approach. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And we have more, I have some notes. I can't remember everything anymore. Is the age, I use it when I need to. So we have, if you are interested in becoming a member, please go to the website, or you can connect with Lauren, and you can join us as a member. That we love having more and more women join us and make an impact, a larger impact in the community. And also we are hoping that you will join us for more Lead Her series, which are virtual. And we are also doing Red and White, the RWC, our regular event yearly, which is happening in Delmar. So thank you again and have a wonderful morning.